My mother-in-law threw my newborn daughter's crib into the trash while I was serving at Army drill. Then she smiled and said something I'll never forget. "No Army brat is going to take over my son's house." At the time, I thought that was the worst thing she could possibly do. I was wrong. 3 hours later, Child Protective Services knocked on my door. 1 hour after that, a U.S. Army officer walked into a county conference room, looked directly at me, snapped to attention, and saluted. The look on my mother-in-law's face was worth every second of what came before. But none of that had happened yet. When I pulled into my driveway that Friday afternoon, I saw the crib before I saw my porch. White rails stuck out of the blue trash cart like broken bones. One side was cracked. The Moon and Stars mobile still dangled from a corner. For a second, I genuinely thought someone had dumped furniture in the wrong bin. Then I saw my front door, and standing in it was Celeste Harrison holding my daughter. My stomach immediately dropped. Elise was only 8 weeks old. My husband, Graham, was deployed overseas with an Army engineering unit. I had spent the day at a military training range where phones were sealed inside signal-blocking pouches. According to my Army family care plan, Elise was supposed to be with Keisha. Not Celeste. Never Celeste. The second Celeste noticed me staring at the trash cart, she smiled. Not a nervous smile, not an embarrassed smile, a satisfied smile. "I fixed the nursery," she said. My eyes moved from her face back to the crib. "You what? You should thank me." Every instinct I had immediately went on alert. "Give me my daughter," she shifted slightly. "You haven't even seen what I did. Give me my daughter." Across the street, Mrs. Nunes stopped sweeping her front steps. Even from 50 feet away, she could tell something was wrong. Celeste finally handed Elise over, slowly. Like she wanted everyone watching to believe she was the reasonable one. The moment Elise settled into my arms, her tiny body relaxed. That told me everything. My daughter smelled different. Lavender perfume, not baby lotion, not our detergent, not home. She wore a lace outfit I'd never purchased. Her cheeks were pink. Her eyes looked tired. She had clearly been overstimulated all day. I kissed her forehead and walked straight into my house. The second I stepped inside, I knew someone had been going through my things. Drawers were open. My diaper bag had been emptied. A framed picture of Graham and me sat face down on a table. The nursing pillow was on the floor. The entire house felt wrong. Then I reached the nursery and froze. The crib was gone, completely gone. In its place sat an old carved wooden daybed covered with decorative pillows and blankets. On top rested a framed baby picture of Graham. The entire room looked less like a nursery and more like a shrine. Then I noticed a stack of papers clipped together on the dresser. I picked them up. Temporary family care agreement. My name was misspelled. Graham's initials appeared at the bottom. My blood ran cold. "What is this?" Celeste folded her arms. "A solution." I looked around the room. "You threw away my daughter's crib." "I removed it." "Why?" "Because Bobby's need stability." There it was, the same argument she'd been making for years. Ever since Graham and I got married, every deployment, every drill weekend, every training exercise, according to Celeste, military service automatically made someone a bad parent. She never said it directly. She didn't have to. She said things like children need consistency, families need mothers who stay home, military life is fine for men. Every comment sounded innocent by itself. Together, they painted a very different picture. I held up the papers. "You expect me to sign this?" It would solve a lot of problems. I laughed because for a moment I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You threw away my crib to force me to sign custody paperwork. Family care paperwork. That's not what this is." Celeste's smile hardened. "It would allow Elise to stay with family when you're unavailable. Keisha is approved. Keisha isn't family." The way she said family made my skin crawl, as if blood automatically made someone trustworthy. As if planning, training, and responsibility meant nothing. I looked around the room again, then back at the papers, then at the missing crib, and suddenly something clicked. The crib wasn't the goal. The crib was leverage. Whatever Celeste wanted had started long before today. Right then the front door opened and Keisha rushed inside. Her face was pale. The second she saw the nursery, she stopped dead. "Oh my God!" Celeste rolled her eyes. "Here comes the babysitter." Keisha ignored her completely. "Mara, I'm so sorry." "What happened?" She swallowed hard. "They showed up this morning and told me you wanted family taking over care." My eyes narrowed. "Who?" She looked directly at Celeste. Silence filled the room. "I told them I was approved in the military care plan," Keisha continued. "I showed them the paperwork. Celeste said she was family and I was interfering." My anger started building, slowly, coldly. "Then what?" "She threatened to report me." Celeste immediately interrupted. That's not what happened. Yes, it is, Keisha fired back. You said I could lose my daycare license if I stood between a grandmother and her grandchild. For the first time all day, Celeste didn't answer immediately. That silence told me more than words ever could. I looked down at Elise sleeping against my chest. Then I looked back at my mother-in-law, and in that moment I realized something terrifying. She hadn't come here hopping, I would agree. She had come here expecting I would eventually surrender. What I didn't know yet was that she had been laying the groundwork for weeks, maybe months, and hidden somewhere inside my house was proof that would destroy everything she had built. The only question was whether I would find it before she found a way to use the system against me. Because while I was standing there staring at the empty corner where my daughter's crib used to be, my mother-in-law had already made a phone call. And that phone call was about to bring Child Protective Services straight to my front door. I stared at Celeste for several seconds after Keisha finished talking. Most people think anger feels hot. Mine never does. Mine gets cold. Very cold. The colder I become, the more dangerous the situation usually is. Celeste seemed to mistake my silence for weakness. She straightened her blouse and smiled like she had already won. Mara, nobody is attacking you. We're trying to help. I looked at the missing crib, then at the fake agreement, then at my exhausted baby. Help, I asked quietly. Is that what you call throwing away a newborn's crib? Celeste sighed dramatically. The crib wasn't safe. It passed inspection. According to who? According to the company that made it. Her smile faded slightly. You always have an answer for everything. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Normally, I wouldn't answer. Something told me to pick up. Hello, a calm female voice answered. Is this Sergeant Mara Harrison? The use of my rank immediately caught my attention. Yes. My name is Renee Tolliver. I'm with Child Protective Services. We'd like to speak with you regarding a report concerning your infant daughter. The room suddenly felt smaller. Keisha's eyes widened. Celeste looked down at the floor, pretending surprise she wasn't actually feeling. There it was, the next step in her plan. I took a slow breath. When would you like to meet? There was a brief pause. We're actually outside your residence now. I walked to the front window. 2 county vehicles sat at the curb. A man and a woman were already approaching the walkway. Behind them, parked half a block away, sat Celeste's silver SUV. My stomach dropped. She had called CPS, then followed them to watch. I opened the front door before they could knock. The woman extended a badge. Sergeant Harrison. Yes, I'm Renee. This is Daniel Brooks. They both looked professional, tired, busy. Neither looked interested in drama, which immediately made me trust them more than most people in the room. Please come in. Celeste suddenly appeared beside me. I'm the grandmother who filed the report. Renee looked at her briefly. We'll speak with everyone separately. Celeste blinked. Excuse me, separately, but this concerns my granddaughter. Separately. The second no came with enough authority that even Celeste stepped back. Inside, Renee began taking notes. Daniel examined the nursery. The empty space where the crib had been immediately drew his attention. Where was the crib located? He asked. I pointed. Right there. Where is it now? I pointed toward the curb. He walked to the window and stared at the trash cart. Then he wrote something down. That was the first moment I felt the balance begin to shift. Facts were entering the room. Facts are dangerous when you're lying. For the next 20 minutes, Renee asked questions. I answered every one calmly. Family care plan, approved caregiver, drill schedule, medical appointments, emergency contacts, everything. Keisha answered questions too. Her story matched mine exactly. Meanwhile, Celeste waited outside on the porch. Every few minutes I saw her trying to peek through the window. Eventually, Daniel returned from outside. The crib appears damaged. Because somebody threw it away, I replied. He nodded slowly and wrote something else. Then Renee asked the question that changed everything. Do you have any evidence showing what happened before you arrived home? I almost said no. Then I remembered something. The nursery camera. My eyes widened. The baby monitor. Celeste noticed the expression immediately. What? She asked. I ignored her. The monitor system automatically saved motion clips whenever movement triggered the camera. The feed had been disconnected, but saved recordings might still exist. My heart started pounding. If the footage was there, everything changed. I walked into the kitchen and grabbed the monitor tablet from beneath a stack of mail. Please be there. Please be there. I opened the app. Several clips appeared. Most were normal. Then I found one recorded earlier that afternoon, 11 seconds long. My finger hovered over the screen. What's that? Renee asked. Maybe nothing. I pressed play. The nursery appeared. Celeste walked into the room holding a screwdriver. Marla entered behind her carrying one of the decorative pillows from the daybed. Then Celeste spoke. Every word was crystal clear. Once the crib is gone, she can't pretend this is settled. My entire body froze. Marla nodded. Do you think she'll sign? Celeste smiled directly at the camera. She'll sign. The video ended. Silence filled the room. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. Daniel slowly looked up from his notebook. Renee replayed the clip, then replayed it again. Outside the window, I could see Celeste's confidence evaporating. She knew exactly what had just happened. Her plan had stopped being a family disagreement and started becoming documented evidence. For the first time all day, she looked nervous. Real nervous. Renee finally set the tablet down. Mrs. Harrison, she said calmly. Can you explain what we just watched? Celeste swallowed. That's being taken out of context. Daniel raised an eyebrow. What context would make that acceptable? Celeste opened her mouth. Nothing came out, and that was when I realized something important. For months, maybe years, she had controlled every conversation by speaking first. She controlled family dinners, church groups, holiday gatherings, neighborhood gossip, but evidence doesn't care who speaks first. Evidence only cares about what happened. And now the evidence was speaking for itself. What none of us knew yet was that this 11-second clip was only the beginning. Because the next morning, another piece of evidence would appear. And that evidence would prove Celeste had started planning this long before drill weekend ever arrived. The next morning, I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that video clip. Celeste holding a screwdriver, Marla carrying the pillow. The confidence in her voice when she said, she'll sign. It wasn't the voice of a worried grandmother. It was the voice of someone executing a plan. By 6 a.m, I was already awake, feeding Elise while reviewing every message, every email, and every note from the previous 24 hours. Army training teaches you something important. When something feels wrong, build a timeline. So that's exactly what I did. Drill check-in, Keisha's arrival, Celeste showing up, the crib disappearing. Fake agreement, the CPS report, the social media posts, everything. The more I organized it, the worse it looked for Celeste. At 8:30, my phone rang. It was Renee. Can you come to the Family Services Center this morning? My stomach tightened. Of course. Bring everything. Family care plan, military documents, screenshots, video recordings, all of it. I will. And Sergeant Harrison. Yes. There was a pause. The situation appears larger than a simple family disagreement. After the call ended, I knew exactly what she meant. This wasn't about a grandmother overstepping boundaries anymore. This was about intent. I arrived at the county building just before 10. Elise slept peacefully in her carrier against my chest. Keisha met me in the parking lot. You okay? She asked. Not really. Good, because neither am I despite everything, I laughed. We walked inside together. The conference room looked exactly like every government conference room in America. Beige walls. Cheap chairs, bad coffee, fluorescent lighting. But when I stepped inside, my heart sank. Celeste was already there. So was Marla. So was Aunt Rhonda. And unbelievably, so was Mrs. Vale from church. They looked like a support group assembled specifically to make me look unstable. Celeste smiled the moment she saw me. Good morning, Mara. I ignored her and sat down. Renee entered a few minutes later. Her expression immediately changed when she saw the extra people. Only essential participants stay. Mrs. Vale stood. I'm here as spiritual support. No. Excuse me. No. Mrs. Vale looked shocked. Apparently nobody had ever told her no before. This is an assessment meeting, not a prayer circle. Aunt Rhonda and Mrs. Vale were escorted out. Celeste looked annoyed. For the first time, she couldn't control the room. Renee opened a folder. Let's begin. Celeste volunteered to speak first. Of course she did. She always spoke first. For 40 minutes, she told a carefully crafted story. According to Celeste, she arrived at my house because she was concerned. According to Celeste, Keisha wasn't qualified. According to Celeste, the crib was damaged before she arrived. According to Celeste, I had become overwhelmed by military responsibilities. According to Celeste, she was simply helping. The scary part wasn't that the story was ridiculous. The scary part was how reasonable it sounded if you didn't know the truth. That's how manipulation works. Good lies aren't outrageous. They're believable. When she finished, Renee turned toward me. Your response. I opened my folder. Family care plan, drill schedule, emergency contact forms, medical records, caregiver approvals, daycare information. I presented everything one document at a time. Then I showed the social media post. The one where Celeste claimed she had rescued Elise. Renee studied it carefully. Mrs. Harrison, why would a rescue be necessary? Celeste shifted in her chair. It was a figure of speech. Renee wrote something down. Then I produced the fake family care agreement. The room immediately became quiet. Renee examined it carefully. Who created this? Celeste answered too quickly. It was only a draft. Silence, real silence. Renee slowly lowered the paper. So you created it? Celeste froze. The trap had closed. If she denied creating it, she just admitted moments earlier that it was a draft. If she admitted creating it, she acknowledged planning the entire thing. Marla looked at her mother. Mom! Celeste shot her a warning glance. I prepared options. Renee looked unimpressed. With the father's initials already included. Nobody answered. Then I placed my phone on the table. I'd like to submit video evidence. Celeste visibly tensed. The clip played again, this time inside a silent conference room. Once the crib is gone, she can't pretend this is settled. Do you think she'll sign? She'll sign. When the video ended, nobody moved. Even Marla looked sick. Renee folded her hands. Mrs. Harrison, what exactly did you mean by that statement? Celeste stared at the table. I was frustrated. Why would removing a crib cause someone to sign legal paperwork? No answer. Daniel entered the room carrying another file. We received additional information this morning. Everyone turned toward him. He handed a printed email to Renee. She read it silently, then looked directly at Celeste. Interesting. My heart started pounding. What is it? Renee slid the paper across the table toward me. The email had been sent 2 weeks before drill weekend. 2 weeks. My eyes widened as I read it. The sender was Celeste Harrison. The recipient was the daycare administration office. The subject line read, Temporary Guardianship Inquiry. My stomach dropped. The message asked whether a grandmother could become a child's primary pickup contact if the mother was under investigation. Under investigation. 2 weeks before the crib incident. 2 weeks before the CPS report. 2 weeks before everything. The room suddenly felt very small. Renee looked at Celeste. Why were you asking about guardianship changes before any concerns had been reported? Celeste's face turned pale. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. Then Marla whispered the words nobody expected to hear. Mom, what did you do? For the first time since this entire nightmare began, Celeste didn't have an answer, and that's when I realized something. We weren't looking at a misunderstanding anymore. We were looking at preparation, deliberate preparation. The crib wasn't the beginning. It was the final step. The real plan had started weeks earlier, and things were about to get much worse for Celeste. Because the next person walking into that conference room wasn't from CPS. He was from the United States Army, and his arrival was about to destroy the last piece of her story.